CNN told its viewers and interviewed a woman declaring that she was just a simple disabled bystander ripped apart from her vehicle and treated poorly by law enforcement. The truth? Completely different. Now the question is CNN conspiring to create chaos in the streets of America, and all for ratings it so desperately needs? Hello folks, welcome back to the channel that feeds you the truth with a capital T each and every day. Go check us, we got a track record served up on a platter of chatter, hot, fresh, and ready for you. Folks, as we dive in, click the like button, and let's talk about CNN. They may have yet again crossed a line, and who knows, maybe the DOJ should be looking around their HQ. Yes, folks, CNN has yet again gone too far, this time mislabeling perhaps a woman who is an activist as somebody else and inciting chaos in Minnesota. Is it another example of the mainstream, lamestream, going extinct dinosaur media stepping into a territory where they're no longer reporters, but have become instigators? We'll show you the info you need to know right now from Nicholas Fondacaro. CNN highlights a woman who they labeled as disabled woman dragged out of her car and arrested by ICE, as if she was an innocent bystander. But the woman, according to this individual, is Ramen. And yes, folks, we have info about that individual out of the news in just a minute. This is the claim that she is part of a leftist activist group with a long history in progressive racial and criminal justice campaigns, including targeting law enforcement. All right, here is the video from CNN. We'll play it for you, and there's more on the way.
We're hearing for the first time from Ramen, the woman ICE officers dragged from her vehicle while she shouted that she was disabled and trying to get to her doctor's office. Here she is with our colleague Laura Coates.
I think even someone who doesn't have the kind of auditory processing challenges I do would not know what to do with the sentence, "Move. I will break your effing window." And then back and forth between move, get out, trying to open my door.
All right, so there she is. She's claiming this in the CNN interview that she couldn't hear them apparently in process. Move. I'm going to break your window. Move. Okay. Now we're led by CNN to believe that she's just a disabled woman dragged out of her car and arrested by ICE. What she is, in fact, might be something very different. Before we find out who she is, CNN continued to go on. Here's more from CNN regarding this woman. Folks, is it just their mistake, an error perhaps? Or are they trying to create, for ratings purposes, chaos in the United States?
And what you are going to see here, because we're going to show you everything, but you're almost surely seeing exclusively on conservative media and in conservative algorithms, is something else that happened in Minneapolis yesterday. There was a church service where protesters made a point of going to this church service and using that as a staging area for, making the fact that they're not happy with ICE known. Yeah.
Now, notice the change. Notice the difference. This woman who is, well, a professional maybe, she's reported on one way. CNN fails to say that who is it who went into this church with the protesters pre-planned to wreak havoc? None other than their man, former CNN personality, Don Lemon in there. All right, who is Ramen, this person that CNN is promoting as just a disabled woman? Folks, I have to go to the Hindustan Times yet again to get this, which I think is just appalling. It's ridiculous that I have to go to the Hindustan Times to get this, but I'm here. Sumanti sent him. We've checked the info, folks. We think it's legit, or else we wouldn't bring it to you. This says, who is Ramen? Screaming woman yanked from car by ICE agents in Minneapolis, ID'd as rainbow aficionado, racial justice activist. Here's what it says. A woman who was filmed being pulled from her vehicle by ICE agents in Minneapolis has been identified as tech guru and rainbow aficionado racial justice activist Ramen, a software engineer with a background in coding. Ramen is known for having supported policies for police-worn body cameras. She has ties to several advocacy groups, including a lengthy history with the BLM movement. A viral video showed federal agents smashing her car window and pulling her out as she screamed on Tuesday, January 13th, after she allegedly blocked law enforcement vehicles during a protest comes after the what we saw with the good lady. Okay, let's go back now to the thread. I want to show you this. If we go back here, let's find out a little bit more about this woman, professional social justice activist. What else would you know about her? It says, according to her employment page, and again, I'm just reporting what Nicholas Fondacaro is saying, on her employment page for New America, a far left organization, they tout how she has a background in legislative, electoral, and community organizing for racial and criminal justice campaigns, 15 years of software development for the social justice movement. Additionally, she is also, and you need to listen to this, she is also the former field director of Equality Ohio, where she built a statewide field program focused on bridging gaps between racial justice organizers, rainbows aficionados, rights groups, and labor. Field director of Equality Ohio. Now, maybe she moved since then, or maybe this is yet another example of a woman out of state doing this thing of blocking law enforcement, coming from out of state. Real quick, I want to play it one more time, Culture. I want people to see one more time. This is how CNN reported it. You now know more about this woman, okay, as has been allegedly reported. Here's how CNN reported it the first time. Did they know? Did they not know? You tell us.
We're hearing for the first time from Aliyah Rahman, the woman ICE officers dragged from her vehicle while she shouted that she was disabled and trying to get to her doctor's office.
That doesn't seem to me to be the full picture, does it?
No.
Culture, I'm worried that the media is now becoming an instigation institution that is seeking to bolster its ratings by putting out either false or misleading info intended to cause maybe somebody to be deleted down the road again and create another summer of not so much love.
I have to ask you, though, Pro, is there money in it?
Oh, there's always money.
Okay, and that's the problem, right?
There's money in ratings, at least, at the very least. There's money in ratings.
There's money in protesting too. You gotta, you look. You have to call this for what it is. It's activism, paid activism, in most situations. A lot of these people aren't from these areas. They're going there to be part of a problem. They're instigators. They're paid instigators in many cases, and there have been people who've been identified as those that are helping to pay them. This is not an unknown woman. She's very well known. You broke down her, chart of disastrous behaviors, and it's
just
been more than a few
organizations.
times.
Organizations she's affiliated with, and here they are talking about it, culture, and blah, 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 blah. But here's the thing, Culture. CNN, we just got the info because Paramount Skydance wants to buy them, right?
Right.
They just told us that CNN has total revenues projected for this year of $1.8 billion.
Right.
That's less than the last two Avatar films individually for an entire news network. So, Culture, they got to make money somehow. They got to get ratings somehow, and they're instigating the ratings.
But they got rid of one of the guys that generated those instigation ratings, which was the Don Lemon guy. They fired him in 2020.
No, this is better for them, Culture. They let this little stick of dynamite runs in there and blows stuff up, and they don't even have to. They don't even have to hold him as a liability for doing it.
They don't even have to have him run into a church and be part of the problem. And this is the other issue, right? When you talk about CNN. It's like you as a journalist, you never want to be mentioned in a story. You don't want to be part of the story. That was old journalism. I'm sorry. That's what I grew up with. That's what I was taught in my journalism classes. And when I reported on things, that's what I tried to do. Okay, so when I say this, you don't want to be part of the story. This is this lady's greatest desire, to be part of the story. And they don't mind being part of the story, even if somebody ends up losing their life, which is the same thing that happened with this lady, Miss Good, who was in a place where she would not have been if, the world were operated slightly differently and she was with maybe a different partner. Because her partner immediately.
Okay. Yeah. I don't want to get into the good thing tonight. I know, but I don't want to get into.
Okay, but it's all tied together. And if you want to stick with this particular story, I'll just say it this way: this lady would not have been there if there wasn't an opportunity to be famous.
Okay. Well, maybe she seems to me to be the kind of person who is actively trying to cause chaos, and fair enough. There's fame that comes with that. Jeremy, my issue that I take with what's going on right now is I see a paradigm shift. In the past, I get it. They tried to create all kinds of chaos too, but this is really switching into a new form of entertainment. This is reality TV injected into communities that don't want it. And then you have people coming from out of state to generate said reality TV. It has political purposes. But this is like reality TV where nobody volunteered to be a part of it. It's being dropped down on these cities and states. And CNN and msnow are doing it, I believe, for ratings. The politicos have it for their own reasons, but I find all of this disgusting.
It's heartbreaking because at the end of the day, more than just the attention, it is costing lives. It is taking something where people don't want to be police officers anymore. People don't want to join the military anymore. Pardon me, I'm sorry. And you have less protection because those people are scared for their lives, and people are going to get riled up and militant about this, and it could cost them their life. And it's an ugly cycle, and it's disgusting, and they don't seem to care about the collateral cost of it, and that's very upsetting.
Lauren, I don't have any problem in the world with reporting on what's happening in places. I have a problem when the former reporter from CNN, Don Lemon, storms a church, and then CNN gets to report on it while the DOJ seems to be absolutely frozen, unable to do anything. I don't know what's going on with them. We'll find out from Ron Coleman real soon. But Lauren, this is TV that's being engineered out of the community chaos that these cable channels are making.
Yeah, I have a hard time knowing what to say about this case because I absolutely hate what's going on. I think that there's a lot of these protesters that have engineered chaos. I think I agree with culture that a lot of them are paid, that they're bussed into communities to create chaos, to spread violence, fear, to burn buildings down, to cause all of these problems. At the same time, our First Amendment right, I think, is the most important right. That's why it is listed as the first. I believe everybody has the right to organize and be an activist and protest as they wish.
Sure.
However, the way that's defined is that they are allowed to peaceably assemble. And I think that the argument that you make is that these people are not peaceably assembling. They are impeding people. They are harming people. That is a different thing. And so you have to always be very careful when you're starting to look at impeding speech. And in the heat of the moment, it can be difficult to determine what is the difference between a protester and somebody who is causing harm. Chaos can't be allowed to spread. There has to be order to protest. And I think that we have allowed things to get far away from what would be considered order. You're allowed to petition your government. You're allowed to be noisy. You're allowed to assemble in a place where you're not harming other people. But when you start harming other people, you start preventing them from going and doing their jobs, you start destroying their property, you start hurting other people, then it becomes a different thing, and you no longer have that protection. And I think that it's time that everybody started recognizing that, because if we don't, this goes down a really, really ugly path that we don't want to see.
Let me toss this to you guys as an idea. There are times in the year when there are acts of God, Mother Nature, whatever you want to call it, you know, like let's say a hurricane, and ratings on the cable channels go up because the hurricane is coming and people tune in to see what's going to happen, right? And the hurricane, if it hits, then the ratings go up really, really big. This to me feels like a man-made, woman-made hurricane. They're attempting to engineer a hurricane in Minneapolis. They're attempting to generate something that people can't take their eyes away from without ever stopping to think, or maybe they just don't care, what the impact will be on Minneapolis for decades to come. And perhaps all of it is meant to hide the other hurricane that was on the way, which was all that fraud being uncovered by Nick Shirley. This is the counter hurricane. This is the preferred chaos as opposed to the other.
Well, the thing is that I think they exposed a thread that will unravel an entire garment. I think it's much bigger than Minneapolis. And I think this is why you're seeing so much agitation coming from both the governor and the mayor. They really don't want this thread being pulled on anymore because it's going to expose them. And it's ultimately going to expose what's happening in other states, which is that there's all kinds of fraud and abuse that is being used to shovel resources, money, material towards a particular party. And if that really becomes known, the extent of it, there's going to be a reckoning. And I think that's what they're desperately trying to avoid.
It's amazing to me too that for right now, I'm seeing more of the bad behavior out of CNN than MS Now. And that's strange. I mean, MSNBC has been so far out there, but CNN right now really taking the lead in some of this behavior that blurs the lines between media and activism. And again, as Lauren's saying, that activism is coming with perhaps the burden of crossing the what's acceptable in terms of respecting rights of others. Culture, I'll give you the final word.
I just have to say that in the behavior of the people who are trying to supposedly protest against things they think are unjust creates injustice itself. I've seen people accused of, creating traffic jams and causing other people's demise because they make it impossible for emergency vehicles to get to where they need to be. And I think I agree with Lauren in that peaceable assembly is one thing. Impeding people's daily lives is something else entirely.
Well, folks, we've come to the end of another video of pure excellence and fun, explaining entertainment, keeping you ahead of the culture curve. That's what we hope you believe we've just done. And why should you believe it? Well, because we've done our very best to make it so, to be true, to be factual, and to do what the mainstream so-called access journalists simply won't. Folks, you can help share this out across the fruited plains of YouTube by clicking the like button, share, subscribe, click it, stick it to the algorithms. It is the notification bell. Drop a comment down below. Let us know your thoughts. And folks, as we get ready to say sayonara for now, we ask that you keep learning, keep growing, and wherever you are and whatever you're doing, keep having fun.